Wholeness to everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Virtual Cleanse Day 3. I feel great today. Of course, we got a lot of stuff lined up for everyone as far as getting more information to you and allowing you to feel the energy that's associated with this powerful fast and cleansing. And of course, today I woke up in a very good mood. Actually, my frequencies have just been continuously raising, even though we're only on day 2. I actually have, I was able to get up at around 3, or actually not 3, 4:30 this morning and get into the studio and actually get everything organized and set things up for today's show. So we'll be able to take advantage of the switcher and all the rest of those things. But first, let me check the sound. Let me do this, just to make sure that we're broadcasting loud and clear. Okay, I see we got some people in the chat box, so I'm going to ask now, sound test, can you hear me? Just so we make sure that we get off here with me, not just, okay, so we're loud and clear. Thanks, Keyshawn. So yeah, let's get right into this. Today, of course, it's going to be about salt. And before we get into that, though, we're going to give everyone their instructions as far as what they need to know about the day that they're on the cleanse, etc., and what they need to do. So for those that are actually on the pre-cleanse, it's of course day 3 for you. And you're going to basically now take your food down to a quarter of your normal intake. And yesterday I've been stepping down my meals, and I like this because it starts to step down the meals in a timely manner, but also it's still aggressive because it's like half and then a quarter, and then now you're going to go into the juice fast if you're choosing the best option. So it's going to be awesome to now, I guess tomorrow actually will be for these people on day 3 to get ready to get into that actual juice fast and to feel the vibrational frequency rising. And also, this entire cleanse is also put together to show people how fun it is to fast. Because a lot of people go into the phobias and they think, oh my goodness, I'm going to be hungry. I don't want to go without eating. I got to work. And so they'll go into all that, and then that'll prevent them from fasting. But we want to show how fun it is and also how much your vibrational frequency can really raise. Okay. And then we want to also show that it's such motivation to keep doing it. Fasting, it becomes a regular part of your daily life, meaning that you just fasting every day is not gorging yourself on things like mucoids and pus or meats and dairy products, and just knowing that there's no payoff for that. So this is going to get you into understanding that, okay, I can actually boost up my frequency, eat the right things, and also have that benefit me in the reality, because that'll help me to make the decisions that I need to make when I'm in that pressure point of having to make that decision. Like, am I going to eat this pizza because there's nothing else to eat around here? I'm going to eat this, this fried food because there's nothing else to eat around here that I won't eat till later. And if I don't eat, that's worse for me. Then, so you'll go into this, what we call the brain gym. But realistically, it's about making sure that you don't shipwreck yourself, basically. You put all the necessary things, you're stable, you keep your stable around you, your stock, as it's called, around you, so that you have easy access to it. So when this thing gets hungry, you make sure you feed it the right thing. So we're going to also be teaching people how to really utilize the I am not the body technique, because we are here assisting the body on its quest and adventure, but we have a spirit inside of us that's much more advanced, and we're being taken to a point, and many of us are already at that point, where we have to utilize the spiritual essence of ourselves to project us into what's next, or else we get really bored. So let me go ahead and reset this camera really briefly, because it did turn off. Anyone heard that click? Okay, so now it's back on, because I actually have a camera on the products that we're going to be looking at today. We're not just going to talk about regular salts. We're also going to talk about biochemical cell salts, which is going to be awesome. And I'm also going to put in a little bit of the esoteric information behind salt, so that you understand exactly what it is and what it's capable of doing. And in fact, I think I should do that first. So that way, when you look at salt from now on, you'll see how important it is. And then that'll assist you in making the proper judgment on making sure you don't get an intake of bad salts, because there are bad salts. And it's not just the bath salts that are running around right now driving people half crazy as far as the new drug. But realistically, a lot of the salts that we're using today are definitely laden with poisons, basically, even because most salt is mixed with fluoride, and you put the salt in your mouth, salt goes directly under your tongue, fluoride goes directly under your tongue. That version of fluoride, you'll learn that later, that there's different versions of fluoride, but it immediately goes into the bloodstream, and here you come, lower frequency again. So we'll also talk about toothpaste, not to jump around a little bit here, but in the end we'll also talk about toothpaste and how important it is for you to get the proper toothpaste. Because what's happening is that it's a lot of the damage to our bodies, even for people who are really conscious, are coming in through seep holes, meaning small things that you're not noticing that become like your Achilles heel. So what happens is, even if you go and eat somewhere else and they may be cooking great food, if you go in the kitchen and you notice that the salt is just regular table salt because they're trying to buy everything in quantity, etc., then that entire dish is going to be just like someone basically put it in the microwave, as far as the change that's going to occur with that food. Because salt is a bridge. So you have to see that in order for you to be able to connect to your food so you can be nourished by it, then what you're also using to connect to that is called taste. Now, if you want to heighten your taste, you will actually begin to eliminate the tasty salt out of your diet altogether. And what happens is that your senses, if you can get the balance going on properly, your senses will increase, because the salt is also what allows your senses to heighten. And you can either call that heighten some sort of an artificial thing if it's done externally by other salts, because your body is producing obviously its own salt. That's you get that in tears, you get that in all of your system. You'll see that it produces salt. And I also show you how esoterically that connects. So basically what I'm really trying to get you to see here is that the salt itself is our conductor. It is our bridge. As also the conductor is the one running the train, or conducting or guiding the train. Okay, so it's our bridge, and this is why the ancient word saltus actually referred to a woman's vagina. And it's because there is a connection, obviously, with the womb, the water, the ocean, the sea, even space. And so what they're saying is where we come from is from space. Now, the names given, and this is something that people have to realize, the names given to each mother per se came much later on. So even when you're referring to the Mother Mary, you're more referring to the mother of Mars than directly the mother of Earth. So you have to understand that you get names like Gaia, you get names like Mary, you get names like Isis, and all of these are different wombs that produce ilk. Now, it's important to see that also that there's different genealogies, obviously. And so when you get even a Jesuit, obviously he has a mother. And so this is the whole lore of which is Martian lore, Romulus and Remus, Atlantis, and the rest of what they have going on. So you have to see this salt thing gets into a lot of deeper information about, again, a covenant or agreement that was made here with the planet. But it is a conductor, meaning agreement is like the shaking of hands. So it's like the bridge to the actual interfacing with whatever it is that you're doing. So now you'll see salt a little bit different, because, of course, if you mix your food with the proper salt, there's no connection between you and the food. If you utilize improper salts and you put it in your body, there's no connection with you and your body. So let me get that image source to you very briefly here. Okay, here we go. So what I have here today is I have biochemical cell salts here. Okay, this is biochemical cell salts. I have Himalayan salt here, and you'll see it's easily identifiable because it's slightly pink. I have just some sea salt here with no fluoride added, etc., just regular sea salt here. And I also have some kosher salt, which you generally find in the grocery stores even when there's no sea salt. And then I have, this is regular salt, and I'll do the company a little justice and not turn it around so they don't just get, all the brunt load of what is in that bottle, which is basically chemical salt and fluoride. And this is why they can make the salt so cheap. And salt sells off the shelves. And actually, you know what? I would have to show this, because you even see here, a pyramid and a sun. And then the name is Sal Sol, right? This is Spanish, but it means the soul of the sun. right? But what sun? And that's where people are going to have to start realizing they have to do the extra homework. You need to figure out where the etymology, and if sun is a specific pronunciation of what we're calling something that people have been naming across the universe for a long time. So for them all to say the same word and for you to imagine that actually happened is not going to be the truth. What happens is that when someone names something, it then becomes limited by the power encased within that name. And also the etymology and the geometry behind the spelling of the word do matter to how the energy itself flows. Okay? So we used to talk about this in the beginning, but I stopped talking about it because people just didn't get it. But if you're looking at the word sun, you would go like this, and then the energy would begin to go, and then you would go like this, and then when you end with the end would take the energy down. And I was trying to explain that, and that's of course the reason why some people uncover that when you cross yourself, it takes your energy down because your last stroke is down. And because writing, as you see within the Japanese tradition, you see they have an entire calligraphic culture there that is also based on how to use the sword, and the sword also being known as the S word. So I don't want to jump around here, but this is again a part of what you have to know about just how deep things are when it comes to this salt. So what happens here is that it's obvious that when you're cooking, and now if you go to France, you'll find that they'll have a million different salts, okay? And they pull these salts from different areas of where the ocean is, because they say in the morning time, what happens during certain times of the year in these areas is that when the ocean pulls back, there's just fine layers of salt everywhere, and they gather up that salt and they sell that salt. And these are some of the most expensive salts in the world, because there's, again, like if you go to France, there's at least hundreds of salts, and they're all pulled from different oceans, and they all bring more flavor to the food. Now, if you notice, France seems to be deeply into or the Merovingian always deeply into tasting things even more. So that brought about, again, more of the knowledge about salt, which is that different salts can even flavor the food more than others. Okay? So now here, of course, you have the sea salt. And you will hear baby in the background a little bit. I do have a little one here. But you have the sea salt. And of course, the sea salt is what you're going to get just generally in your general store. Now, these two, if you wanted to begin to rank the salts, these two are going to be your premium salts that you're going to be able to use on a day-to-day basis that you have access to. If you want to go deeper and try to find an even more pure salt coming from a really pure ocean where when the water comes up, it's not contaminated and they're obviously cultivating the salt, then you look on the internet and you'll actually find, salt dealers. But it's an important thing if you're going to choose to utilize it. And again, being able to incorporate it out of your diet, if you could accomplish something like that, we want to still be realistic, is also key to even heightening your senses more. So you also, just in case, if you can't get a hold of anything and you're in one of those cities where the most that they'll have is what I'll just say what the Yiddish were able to put there, then you have this kosher salt, which of course is very coarse and very acidic. So you will really need to grind this salt down if you choose to use it. But this is more or less, the last ditch effort, but it does beat out this individual who is obviously here to destroy people. Because again, it's not just salt, it's also fluoride, it's chemical. Because you have to realize that all of the organic substances that we can utilize today, there is a chemical version of them. They now have isolation on key elements that actually make up the rudimentary foundation to all these substances. So if they want it to taste like salt, they can give you something that tastes like salt by just using the chloride. If they want to make it taste like even chicken, which you'll see with something like the Morningstar products, there are certain chemicals that they can use to get that taste, because they've broken down even the taste to the actual molecule. Now, what we have here, of course, is the biochemical cell salts, and not many people are familiar with the biochemical cell salts. So let me take a moment here to put up a chart of Actually, I won't put up that chart. What I'll do is I'll just explain very briefly how the biochemical cell salts work and exactly how they came into conception. Basically, the biochemical cell salts came into conception when one cell, and I'll change the camera here, one cell was basically burnt with a high degree of fire, okay? And then there was an ash left. And then so they took that ash and they broke it down for each of the elements. And they said, thus what came out of those elements, they say were 12 salts that were, many of which made from metals or the base to metals. There is rumor of a 13th salt. There's rumor that there is a biochemical cell salt that is gold. And it's gold in a biochemical cell salt form. And they said that this was known to cure drug addictions. So they got rid of it altogether. And so obviously we will be working towards figuring out how to reconstruct it on a chemical level, which is one of our projects that we've been working on with actually using a machine that actually takes things through a colloidal process. But instead of, and then actually concentrating a gold on a colloidal level and then distilling that water and then taking that residue and then using that as a base to begin to restructure a biochemical cell salt gold. Because in this case, the gold is coming from an arc, meaning that the gold, when you study colloidal, how colloidal silver works is that you have a silver wire here and a silver wire there, and then you have a current firing into this silver wire. And when this other silver wire is here, when the actual spark connects, that's called an arc. So the arc itself is just a spark. But then this spark starts to basically send its ions into the water. And because the spark is coming from gold or whatever material that you're using, keep it being platinum, then you'll actually, if you test it out, the parts per million of the gold will increase in the water. Now, this is obviously not gold that you can go and take down and buy something with, but it's actually gold infused on a micro, I guess it would be something like a nano level or a very microscopic level. And then, no, forgive me if I don't know all the technical stuff, but I definitely know what it does. So again, what we're looking at really is that with the body, and this is why salt becomes very important, the body has all of these different fuels and different fluids and fuels in the spine, in the blood, the saliva, the spit, the tears, the sweat, the grime, all of these different essences that come from the body are all different in their chemical makeup. So there are base things that your body uses to actually make all these things. And one of those base things is salt. Salt is like the base principle. And if you also look at it on the geometric level, it's a cube. So you'll understand also how it connects with the womb. And of course, they say the Kaaba is a cube or a cell. And then how that cell becomes populated, especially in the holiest of holies, when there is a union in, between what they say is the priest, which of course is you inside of your own temple, which is your body. And then again, you can, after that, speak scientific tongues even. So again, all of this stuff is really, it mixes in. If it's truth, then it all mixes in with truth. So I wanted to do this today. I wanted to read to you some of the benefits of utilizing the biochemical cell salts just based on what they do. And of course, the biochemical cell salt is not the salt for your food. It is the salt for your body and the food that your body needs to eat and how it needs to understand how to taste and repair its organs that are associated with the taste. Now, if you want to see also more of how serious it is, if you ever notice, if you plug your nose, most people know this, and you eat something, you can't taste it, right? So there's another thing that if your ears are clogged with wax a lot, right, then some of your other senses are more dulled out. So of course they have ear candling. And you can pull the wax out of your ear and it heightens more of the senses. So what all this is telling you, instead of us going down a long list of different things you could do to clean your filters, because obviously we're engaged in the virtual cleanse, what this is telling you is that your body has all of these elements that it's been developing, and it needs those elements to run itself properly, almost like the finest car you can think of, but beyond that now, because it's in the organics. And what's been happening is that we haven't been getting the proper fluids and fuels mixtures that are necessary to really power this thing up. And so thus, according to the esoteric lore, then one has become trapped inside of the phi-based vehicle. And so we see life and creation as magnificent, so we should also see ourselves as magnificent. But that also is contingent upon how much access we have to what is really called magnificent here, meaning how much access do you actually have to your body and to all of the higher senses that are encased inside of the body. They're there. You may have not experienced them yet. It's like a dip switch at times, meaning that if to turn it off and to turn it on is to simply understand many of the chemical elements that are inside the body and the actual pH of the body, etc. To be turned on, though, only accelerates the vehicle into the direction that it's already going. This is another deeper mystery about how everything is still in balance because you get what you've put into something. So if you accelerate yourself because you've understood the principles behind that, but you haven't carried out that kind of life, then you accelerate yourself only into the frequency that you're already headed. And this is why we talk about this harmonic frequency, because what's actually happening is even in our cleansing right now, we're coming into some type of agreement with our body. We're saying, okay, look, you've been running out of control, and I haven't really been able to benefit off of what you're doing. See, people have to see that, again, between the spirit and the body, there is a conversation that constantly goes on. And if you don't think that's true, then why do you talk to yourself? Why do you think to yourself? Who is it that you need to confirm things by? Why don't you just act? You see what I mean? So if you want to understand higher frequencies, higher beings, it's only action, because there's no one to confirm it by, talk to about it. All is at access. So you see what I mean? It's basically like everything is with you, not you having to figure out how things are going on a divisive and a division type level. So these are, again, big keys. So calcium fluoride, and again, this is different than the fluoride, the chemical fluorides that you're talking about in there. The whole idea of fluoride, and this is the calcium fluoride here, and there's really, all these bottles look the same, so there's no need for me to show them to you, but it is here. And what you get in the biochemical cell salt kit is you get all 12 salts. Hopefully one day soon you'll be able to get the 13th in the pack for yourself. But what's happening is that, let's just read, and I'm just going to give you a couple examples. I'm not going to read all 12 of them, but I'm going to give you a couple examples of how it helps your physical body. And I heard some clicking. Take a look over here. Okay, so basically calcium fluoride gives tissue the quality of elasticity. Now, the importance of this is that this is the difference between whether your skin starts to look wrinkled and cracked, and also your veins become verrucous veins, etc., or not. Because the elasticity of the skin needs to be able to expand and contract based on the air and environment you're in, how much water you have in your system, etc., etc. So it says it combines with the organic substance albumin to form organic elastic tissue and is found in the walls of the blood vessels, in muscular tissue, in connective tissue, in the surface of bones, and in the enamel of the teeth. A deficiency of calcium fluoride results in a loss of elasticity and consequent relaxed condition, meaning that you won't feel calm. Its main function is to preserve the preservation of contractile powder of elastic tissue. Whenever symptoms are traceable to a relaxed condition of veins and arteries, piles, sluggish circulation, a tendency to cracks in the skin, notably in the palms of the hands and between the toes, this tissue salt is indicated. Calcium fluoride is also useful in treatment of diseases affecting the surface of the bones and the joints. And when the teeth become loose in their sockets and decay rapidly, the elasticity of the muscular tissue and supporting membranes becomes impaired when this tissue salt is deficient, resulting in muscular weakness, bearing down pains, etc. The symptoms are generally worse in humid conditions and are relieved by massage and warmth. Okay, Now, this is also a very excellent book. You can get these books for absolutely free on the Resistance site under the Biochemical Cell Salt section, which you could just access by clicking the link that's up there in the top tab on the left. So what happens is that even reading this book, you'll actually be able to identify how the body functions in its divisions. Okay? Now, surely the head is not the leg, and surely the heart is not the liver. So there is a division going on inside the body, but they're still all inside of the body. So division working together, the original order out of chaos. Okay? So what happens here with the body is that you have to see that now you in the most conscious position. This means you've already ascended. This is what I also come to tell people. Like, if you have a body, you already ascended because you actually have a whole universe to command. So now you can just say, hey, let's activate this. You feet, activate this. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's break all the crystal toxin buildup in the feet today. Let's go and soak the skin in salt and then replenish it today because it is the largest organ is your skin. Let's go and change out all of the fluorides in the house and distill the water to get the fuels right today. So you notice how this also becomes a major task, this universe. So you also realize what happened. So it's like, yeah, they stole my universe. Well, actually, when you don't want to manage your universe anymore, then you fall asleep. And people call this that God is dead. That's why they think on the dimension God is dead. But it's really because they have killed God and put God on the cross and got rid of God. But the reality is that that's something internally. That's what the whole scapegoat thing is about. It's about basically having someone else do something for you that you should be doing. So this causes you to go to a level of sleep. And if you want to see that in our reality, it's now computers. It's now the cell phones. They remember everything, causing us not to remember. So that not having a memory actually puts us into a deeper level of sleep because memory is also encased with frequency. So the more memory you have of something, especially if it's true, the more expansive the frequency actually is. So here we are once again, basically in the power down vehicle, God's, as they say, dead but dreaming, and dead in the sense that the reason why they, in this lore, of course, they wanted to accept that man was dead and woman was dead because they weren't doing anything to the level of what they were doing before. That's what it was meant. It's like, yeah, we remember the old human, the giant and the huge souls and all of that stuff and the massive families and tribal leaders and all that. We remember that, but that's not what's happening now. So thus man is dead, woman is dead. But every night though, they catch a glimpse. Like some people, especially these days, the dreams that they're having, I'd be like, look, you got to take the dreams with a grain of salt. Literally, because your dreams in many cases are being directly manipulated by the hive mind current. Like the hive mind current is basically what you see after you sit in the dark room meditation for 2 weeks and you come out and then you look and there's webs everywhere. And the geometry behind these webs are so perfect, you can actually see where other webs go through webs but never really connect in a sense, but except for at certain points. And then you're like, what is all this? Wi-Fi. It's all of these different connections that have been made. Now, for you to get into the connection, because people are acting like, well, yeah, there's this huge bridge between us and computers. Well, that's also the salt semiconductor carbon thing that when you really study not only ancient knowledge, but also science, then you find that these are the basic building blocks of our real humanity. So, of course, any type of spiritual knowledge would only have to, especially if it was written, it would have to adhere to that if it was going to be anywhere close to the truth, because that was the truth, that there was these foundations and building blocks on the way that the body was created. So again, not to go on a tangent here, but these are the most important things that have to be known, but not just known, but conceived the proper way. So you can see how crazy this can get in the maze with the Minotaur somewhere stuck in the middle, MLK, the labyrinth, the king in the middle of the labyrinth, the king with the crown or the horns running around. This is how crazy it could get in this matrix and how many pathways you can go down that don't end up taking you anywhere but against a wall so that you have to turn around again. Because think about it. You can do this expansive awakening to yourself and then destroy it all with a bottle of Morton's salt. Now, that's the biggest salt, one of the biggest salts in the United States, always has been. What is the emblem? A lady with the umbrella. She's the one being shielded from the rain, but she's dumping out the salt. Okay? So also mort is the root word of mortuary, which means death or to freeze. So you see how all of it really connects. And as one who can see, they say, we got one that can see. The one that can see looks at mort and salt and the emblem and the thing behind the back and says, got to stay away from that. So this applies to you no matter what level or what dimension that you're actually on. This is your firmware, basically, how it was installed, no matter where you go to the universe. But this also means that has a lot to do with something that you already have, which is basically your intuition. When you look at something and you say, look at it closely, look at the symbolism. See, what's happening now is it's just so blatant. All the symbolism could be there, but everyone is just doesn't even ignore, it just ignores completely what the symbolism means. In addition to that, because we have to function in a world that's with these things, remember, there's a great deal of bridging that we have to do in order to be able to not only assist ourselves, but also assist others, meaning that you're not just going to go outside and make everyone stop driving a car today. But that doesn't mean that you can't conceive the idea that one day that becomes possible. And then if you can build up enough energy, that day actually becomes closer and closer. So what's true, that what the mind can conceive, it will achieve. But what it also needs to conceive is the knowledge that is necessary to achieve. Meaning that there's steps and points and things that mainly the mind, body, and soul, which are different areas that you must check. And we'll go through this. This is really how the Astral Quest begins. It begins on the foundation of the information that has been acquired over all the period of time with all the individuals, not only with the resistance, but also personal lives that people have had. And all the information is coalesced into the truth because we can scan the truth across other things, meaning that it doesn't require someone to say something that is the truth and then it's not anywhere. What it really requires is everyone to, excuse me, those words are kind of cut up, but basically what I'm saying is that if someone is telling the truth, you should be able to find it everywhere. It shouldn't require you to go and believe that this person is telling you the truth. You see, so the only thing that we've done here is we've left no guard at the gate, meaning that we've actually said, well, I'll let someone else determine whether this is going to be good for me or not. Surely if the FDA approves it, then it's actually going to be good for me. And then also you'll see the silent war that's going on, because if FDA can let Mortons come in but haggle you to death because you're trying to bring some Himalaya in, then we already realize, man, this is not living. So if you're not going to let me live, then I'm not going to let you live. Meaning, in a sense, if you're not going to let me live my life, then I'm not going to let you live your life in peace. As they say, they want to live their life in peace. Okay, peace is separate. So you see how they got peace. They got their separation from everyone else in humanity, and they live in their castles. They don't go to the mall and stuff like that. They have people bring the best designers come and make the stuff for them. You see what I mean? So they accomplish peace. There's another play on the words, because we were looking for wholeness. We were looking for everyone to be together, not everyone to be separate. The whole reality has to come together for it to enter into its original state of perfection. So, and this is something that can easily be seen through all the different microcosmic examples that we get in the reality. So also it becomes where nobody can tell us that it wasn't actually told to us, because the tree outside is trying to tell it to us. The tree is dropping the seeds that keep producing more of itself. So if we can't see that humans drop other humans to produce more humans, then we can't see our connection to anything like a tree, and then even understand how that ties into something like a Sephiroth or a Kabbalistic tree. Not to mention, still understand you got people that have actually found templates and correspondence to how we exist, and then start making altercations and alternations with things. Notice, if your heart is here, then you think and you feel from here. You see, so this is the other flaw of this new Kabbalistic template knowledge that everyone has. They think, well, death is here and Kether is here. You don't know where it is from. You won't know where it is from these people, because they're not interested in telling Goyim the truth. You see what I mean? So you have all of these preliminary prejudices and preliminary damage that has been done with some of the children through time. And this is also, we arrived here now, so we can all solve this now. This is almost like sometimes if you're into a major situation and then it involves several people and then it happens to get to a point where everyone is right there, someone will actually say, hey, since we're all together, why don't we solve this problem? Or why don't we talk about this problem that we've been having over, like, you know, who knows? I think it's been like 9 parsecs now. Orion, could you come in here? You see what I mean? Somebody needs to be the real bridge maker. But the thing is, because that's how I used to look at it, especially in the beginning, externally, was that I was going to have to literally charge into some of these beings that exist. And then I exhausted a lot of energy and fuel doing that. But I still had an inexhaustible source within self. So I expanded deep into the abyss with my own light, looking for what was going on. And then I realized that, wait a minute, you need to do about face, meaning that you need to go inside, because your brain is only going to be able to get you so far. Like what you understand and what you know and what you've read can only go so far. It goes as far as the limitation of the last thing that you read. But I'm telling you, there's another vehicle to access data, and it's faster. So you can keep running around, playing around with the 3D rudimentary system of the two eyes, the dual eyes, or you can latch on to something universal and unison that can actually feed to you the truth. You see what I mean? So this is the depth of actually connecting with the inner self versus having to read some knowledge and information. But I tell you the truth, because you're in a world, you're going to need both. Some people's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Because now, see, that's what I'm talking about. Tapping into your inner self. Yeah, tap into your inner self and outer self. Guess what? Now we're in this physical reality. We now have bodies. Some people have children running around here. We have actually not some people, everyone has a child running around. Let me show you. Each idea itself is a conception or inception. It is the child. It is the seed. So whether it's become a physical child, or whether it's become a company, or whether it's become anything that you've actually walked all the way through from its infantile seedling stage all the way to becoming full-grown adult or adept, then that has been your transmutation, and that child has become an adult. Or if it's still in its premium stage or premature stage, then it actually is your child, and you're working on it in this reality. So again, everyone has a child here. So now, if you're in an external reality, there's things acting on other things, and we're all in this huge bubble or cell. Now we have to actually make sure that the seeds that we put here, whether they're our ideas or physical children, are actually in good soil. Now, how could one do that if they don't know what good soil is? Meaning that if the person can't even connect how soil has anything to do with them, from multiple levels, like one, walking with no shoes on in nature to absorb the ground, or that the body has these fluids and they need things like the chulin, the shilajit, etc., to create a greater level of consistency, especially for the man to raise fluids up through his spine. Also for the woman, she's got the huge womb here, the entire system that's functioning with even more fluids. So you got fluids present in the woman that are not present in the man, but when the woman and the man come together, those fluids, they're bioelectric, start to act on each other. It doesn't need to be all outside the container and mixed together, even though that happens too. But the reality is that just your sheer connection with things, like when I grab that soul salt, immediately I feel a pop in my head. And then I start feeling like... the easiest way I can put it, because of course I'll put something down like that really fast, is I'll feel like somewhat of a numbness in my teeth and mouth, right? Okay, now this is like, okay, some people may think that this is not the truth, so I have to show you an example. And so it feels like a numbness in my mouth, like it's like Superman's kryptonite or something. So let me show you the difference with when the body has a high magnetic field, and let's see if it'll do this now, because I gotta see where my body is at. But notice how this is just some protein. And I'm gonna show you something. I may make a little mess here. But when the body has a high magnetic field, my magnetic field is acting on this through my finger. So do you see where, let me put this in front of the camera. Now, if you watch this closely, you'll see that is popping by itself. Okay, and when I put my hand around it, it starts to go all over my hand. And I'm not sure if everyone can see that. Let me turn it around here. Okay. Okay. So again, you have to freeze that later and check it out. And I'll probably get the DSLR out in a minute and do it again. But basically what happens is that when you're carrying this high magnetic field, and if there's anything that can conduct, it'll actually start spraying out in that pattern that you generally see when you're dealing with the cymatics that's related to magnets. But basically, you'll see during this cleanse, and we'll do that test. I guess we'll do that test daily, because that thing is, you can also do this test with new plastic for some reason. Like if you get plastic and then you take a sheet of this new plastic and you hold it like this and you hold your hand here, you'll see it starts going closer to your hand like it's magnetized. And I'm not sure how many people have experienced this, so I might have to just show it to them, and so they don't think that I'm crazy about it. But you get the piece of plastic, you hold get close, and the higher your magnetic field is, the further away you need your hand to be before the page just starts sucking towards your hand. So I'm going to read another one of these biochemical cell salts again, just so you get the complete information, or just the drift of the complete information. But here's another one. Magnesium phosphate is known as the antispasmodic tissue salt. Its main function is in connection with the nervous system, where it supplements, just have to make this larger here, where it supplements action of cholephosphate. When a deficiency of magnesium phosphate occurs, the white nerve fibers contract, causing spasms and cramps. This tissue salt is of importance to muscular tissue, ensuring rhythmic and coherent movement. Magnesium phosphate is quick to relieve pain, especially cramping, shooting, darting, and spasmodic pains. Magnesium phosphate is indicated for nerve pains such as neuralgia, neuritis, and sciatica, and headaches accompanied by shooting, darting, stabs of pain. It relieves muscular twitching, cramps, hiccups, convulsions, fits of coughing, and thus sudden sharp twinges of pain that are so distressing. And it keeps going on. But again, to take the biochemical cell salts also to show you how simple this is versus a lot of what is administered today in the industry for, excuse me, let's just turn that on there. Oh, our camera went off. Okay. Okay, I do apologize about that, everyone. That small camera has a auto off thing that doesn't seem to stay off. But okay, so yeah, so basically with the biochemical cell salts, excuse me, lost my train of thought here for a minute, but hold on. Okay. All right, I remember I was talking about magnesium phosphate, and then all of a sudden I got clicked off on the camera. But anyway, what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and look at the chat box just while I'm catching my train of thought here. I wanted to say something more about the biochemical cell salts, and I'll remember here in a second, but let me just check and see what's going on in the chat box. Okay, yeah, I definitely have a battery issue, obviously, on that other camera, so we're going to say goodbye to that camera here. Okay, yeah, that's what it was. I wanted to show you really briefly how the biochemical cell salts look. So basically, they're these real little white tablets. You put 2 of them under your tongue. They dissolve. They're kind of sweet a little bit, like sugar. And then don't get it twisted. They actually work. And you cannot, like I talked to people about this, and I think somebody got it a little bit confused, but you cannot take all the biochemical cell salts in this quantity all at one time, like 12 underneath the tongue. And the reason is because each of these do different things. That's why you have to study it first. But the actual knowledge of the biochemical cell salts will get you so in touch with your body and the organs and the different divisions of the organs, as I talked about earlier. You'll be able to understand exactly when something needs to be tightened up. And you'll be able to tweak with your body sometimes. Like, okay, I want to feel lighter, but I also want to be awake, but I also want to be very calm. You see what I mean? So, and you understand what salts to actually take to accomplish that frequency. And then this is what happens with the body. The body is a learner. It's learning, just like everything else that we experience in life. And even dogs can be trained, animals can be trained. So when the body sees how to do something, it then, especially if it pleases you, or pleases the master, meaning that you're the master of your body, it pleases you that your body is working very well, then it wants to go into that zone, and it knows how to go into that zone naturally. So you see what I mean? How just because everything is functioning on this separate level doesn't mean that doesn't serve to be some kind of major benefit to us. In addition to that, that even though everything is working on this separate level within the body, it's all inside of the body. So then when you want to see what the immediate reality is that is around you, what it's like, it's just like that. It's all of these different bodies in different countries and different creeds, etc., still all in one world working with the world. But the major thing that needs to occur with us, obviously, is that we're going to have to work for the world's progression, meaning that we're going to have to work to actually enliven ourselves. So if you look at the population, just so you can get the tune of the work that needs to be done here, and then I'll answer some questions and we'll close down. The tune of this then is that the planet itself is in a level of just like the masses body, meaning that the higher percentage of conditions of people's body, what are they doing? They're eating meat. They're not getting the proper nutrients. They're not getting any of the cell salts. They're not basically expanding at all. They're asleep. That's the masses. Okay. So the mass of the planetary frequency would be the same, not different. So that means you also encase a solution to the situation. Once you can begin to bring up frequencies, don't start thinking about bringing like you're going to teach your knowledge or whatever to everyone. That's not really how it's going to work. It's going to work with a few people that can gain heavy levels of knowledge and application, right? They're going to get that frequency and they're going to start spreading that frequency everywhere. Now, people, I've seen this happen. Like I'm not talking about, this is what makes me an optimist. This is what makes me still do what I've been doing for the last 3-4 years without even considering all the different things that people are pushing out against me. See what I mean? And it's because I was in a room where, and I went through a process that my vibration started going higher and higher and higher and higher. And then first it was interesting and then I couldn't stop it. And then I realized that I was going regardless. And then it seemed like I came out of the body. And then I came back in the body. I went out and I slammed back into the body. And I had the essence of where I went within my hands. But before when I was going into that higher frequency, there was another individual in the room with me that wasn't even really there engaging in that. They just happened to be there. And they touched me. And they went into the higher frequency, and I witnessed that with them. And it was like you touch a plug socket. But the actual energy that was with it, which is sometimes they call Shakti, is not like electricity. It's an energy that once it hits you, then you're immediately enlightened after that to a certain degree. And what this enlightenment is about, though, is it's about your next level. Because that's what happened to that guy. He went on, he got married. He was just a street guy in the beginning, just, a person that just does whatever they want to do, basically. Then he went from there, he got married, he had a kid, he even grew a beard. Like, the guy just totally changed. And it was that day in his life, but that was also his time to change too. So I think that it's a lot of our times to change. I call it high time to get the change that we really want. But to do that, we just need to change the frequency. It's our responsibility, and at times it's not just a thought, it's actually the application of things that can do that for you. So let me look through these questions and see, okay, I see a question here from Keyshawn. Also, if there is a question, Keyshawn, yes, if you can frame it as a question in the chat box, it helps me out a lot to find them. And that's, of course, in the Skype chat box, so I'm going to look now. It says, please clarify for Stacy the validity of this quote, but there are people who believe that if you take a great number of different cell salts without carefully checking which are right for your symptoms, they will cancel each other out. That's the quote in the first book posted on cell salts. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong. Not sure. Page 11. Okay, let me explain to you again, maybe that person already got the answer earlier, but I will explain in depth. that when you're using these biochemical cell salts, you are treating your body based on the symptom. Now, the symptom could be drowsiness. The symptom could be not sharp, meaning the mind is dull and not responding and forgetful, etc. So if you're treating, that is a symptom that you'll be treating, so you're treated directly. It's not one of those things which is sometimes the haphazard way of what we learn of how to take herbs and take medicines, is we just throw it in. Like somebody says, this is good for you, and then they just put it in, and they're like, okay, the body will sort it out. That's not how it works. You have to make sure that what you're putting it in is actually going to treat whatever it is that you're trying to enhance or trying to rid yourself of. You see what I mean? So also consider that what the moon is doing is the moon is a magnetic, it's using a magnetic field. So of course during the full moon, the magnetic sensations are a lot higher and things replicate during that time. So, of course, all the worms and things in the body and all that stuff replicate more during the full moon. And this is the big cause of the major frequency change within a lot of people. But in another sense, you also have to consider the waxing and wanings of the moon as if you're going to get rid of something, if you're trying to get rid of something, or you're trying to add something. And I can't give you fine details about that, but just understand it just has to do with whether you're going to get rid of something or whether you're adding something, either addition or subtraction. And so it's either wax or wane. Okay? And the reason why this becomes important, because some people say, well, look, man, I don't think that's important. That used to be, especially my thing, especially considering something like the moon and being a celestial vehicle in itself, fully under control by who knows what faction. But it's just like this for a farmer. You don't plant tomatoes in the winter. Meaning that there are laws and rules and cycles and systems so that these celestial spheres and cells do not slam into each other. So if you understand that sequence in itself, then you actually know when to, what they say, either to plant or to reap. So this is one of those major things that you have to set up in your own astronomical clock. Because you're dealing with a universe, you need to get these things in lines. You need to check out the orbits, make sure the orbits are actually circular in many senses, and that there's an understanding of the coils, and there's an understanding of the energies, etc. So we won't get into that now. That'll get a little long-winded. Here's another question. It says, do you know if the cell salts are vegan? Often tissue salts are not vegan and lactose pellets. The lactose is also never RGBH free nor organic. Not sure if the ones featured are. I couldn't find any info on the cell salt website. Great question. Yes, that most of the cell salts that you will find now have the lactose in them. And now as far as them not being organic and also not RGBH free ever, you have to clarify that with the particular distributor, because they do put a lot of time and attention into what they do, because they've been basically holding the cell salt industry up for the last 70 or 80 years to make sure that it still stays alive. So I will check with on that personally, but I've also been able to discover non-lactose biochemical cell salts. But you also have to realize that the reason why they do put it in that compound is actually so that it ingests well. So I will, except for people that are, of course, lactose intolerant. So I will put the information about that, because I did research it deeply myself. And it also has a lot to do, again, with when you're increasing the percentage of the dosages, like you have times 6, you have times 30. In order for you to be able to get that capacity of effect, certain things need to happen. So I would highly encourage everyone to still be realistic about this, because this will drive you crazy if you let it get the best of you. At times, we will adjust certain things. Like, for instance, here's a good example. There's a product that you use on, that's organic, that you use on babies to decrease rash, to get rid of the rash or to prevent rashes, okay? Especially when you're changing them. Now, because it was organic, it had like oil of this and oil of that and all of these different paraffin and everything that didn't have to do with paraffin and things like that. So it was a completely organic mixture, okay? So it came out as a balm. Now, every time we use this, it never worked, because it doesn't have the things that are necessary for it to actually repel the bacteria and things that are growing that cause the infection and the rash, okay? So it's all fun and fine and dandy for someone to make something that says that it's supposed to do a specific thing, but then it's not fun when you're actually having the result of the problem, and then even products that weren't labeled as that would have fixed the problem, which would have prevented other things that happen a lot later on that hinder it entirely. And let me just talk about that, because these are important things. Women have, when they're first breastfeeding, extreme nipple pain. And this nipple actually causes at times, if it gets infected, something called mastitis, where the nipple gets basically clogged because the milk is now infected because the pus from the nipple duct being blocked has caused the infection of the breast, okay? So there's something that's simple called the nipple guard, which is basically a very thin piece of plastic that was created to put over the mother's breast for at least the first week or two, so that way that the mother can adjust to how aggressive it is for the baby to suck on this raw nipple, and so she can continue breastfeeding. Because about 20% of the women that are attempting to breastfeed can't breastfeed because they end up catching mastitis because of the nipple problem. So you have these organic people that would say never give the baby some type of little piece of plastic when the baby is that young, okay? But then, is it better for the baby not to have a little piece of plastic but end up not breastfeeding versus having that little piece of plastic and then that end up allowing the mother to continue to breastfeed for 2 years even maybe to make sure she has a stronger child? So do you see where there's these things that you have these people that are so natural, they immediately come step over on anything and don't even understand the principles and the knowledge behind it and the results of not being able to utilize certain things properly. We've made sure that we've done our homework. So when we speak out against fluoride, you do have some people that will sit there and tell you that fluoride is supposed to be good for you. The end of that whole thing is that the fluoride that is in toothpaste is not the same fluoride that you see in here. So it's just the chemical breakdown. And like we were talking about with the water, if you're not making your own water, you can't really say exactly how that water and what elements and what minerals and if it's artesian water and all that. You don't have that security. So again, to gain the security, do your research. Also make sure that you're not, again, going insanely organic in the sense where you're like, everything's got to be organic, everything's got to be fresh, everything's got to be natural. And you're talking about something that is a base element in the first place and has to be assimilable to the body. Just like you can't just take calcium. Calcium is not assimilable to the body. There's, of course, an ocean calcium that generally you use is assimilable to the body. And generally it has to be picoulated, meaning put in a state where the body can actually take it in, or else it just sits there and it clogs up around the glands. And then that becomes worse than, or it doesn't have an effect. And that, of course, becomes worse than utilizing something that will have the effect, but may contain some lactose. So there you have it. And the other thing was, is I noticed that there wasn't as much lactose in it, because I'm even somewhat can't deal with a lot of lactose to cause reactions, especially if you got it in your system enough. So I don't think that's one of the major concerns with the biochemical cell salts, at least these. So I'll have to research, what else is out there and see what they have going on. Okay, let me check again the chat box. Okay, so that looks like everyone's got their question out. Of course, we will probably turn the cameras on around 7 o'clock tonight. Maybe we'll have a nice nighttime movie. Tomorrow is frequency, so expect to be wild with what exactly is going to be displayed on that show. I guess it's tomorrow. I believe tomorrow is the frequency show. So that'll be awesome. I'll definitely be bringing out some stuff and bringing out some information, especially with the cymatics. I'll bring out the old cymatics machine out of the room. Maybe we'll see even the GB4000, who knows. So I wanted to say wholeness and balanced vibration to everyone. Thank you again for tuning in to day 3 of the virtual cleanse. And by the way, I did realize earlier that I didn't give the instructions to the people that were on day 6, it would be for them. And if you're on day 6, of course, you'll do everything like you normally do. You're going to take it every 3 hours. You're going to make sure you get 6 to 8 glasses of water in your system. That's for everyone. And you're also going to take that the toxin absorber 2 hours, the digestive stimulator, your digestive stimulator number 2 hours after you take your last toxin absorber in the evening. Also, I did want to let everyone know that, especially for the people that are on the pre-cleanse day 3, Make sure right before dinner you take your digestive stimulator number. That's something that you have to remember before you eat dinner, and it's got to be at least 30 minutes before you eat dinner. So yeah, right before dinner. So that's pretty much it. So as you can see, it's going to be awesome continuously, and I'm really jubilant in being here, and I actually am also grateful to be doing these shows every single day, because it kind of gets me more familiar with just being here every day, being able to present information. And of course, I want to do that a lot more, and I want to also share other people with you, meaning bringing other people in and letting them create something and do something, and me being able to do the best that I can to add to that, and us continuously growing. So expect some expansion out of the Resistance and AstroQuest and the rest of the platforms that we're running, Wholeness and Balance Vibration, and even expect definite expansion with the Earth.